Today's video, it's a little wacky, it's a little weird, and, I can understand if you're like, hey, these two things ain't happening. Well, I'm going to tell you why it should happen, how it can happen, and a little bit of everything in between in our program. Welcome to Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for making our video a part of your day. Before we get started, I got to tell you guys about an awesome sponsor for the record. And if you got a little fur friend, a little buddy at home, a good boy, if you will, you got to check out Ollie, because today's episode of Saints Now is brought to you by Ollie. It's clean, fresh nutrition for your dog. And right now, Ollie's offering a fantastic deal to let your pup taste test a personalized meal plan with 60% off your first meal or your first box of meals, when you use promo code CHATSPORTS at Ollie.com. Now, here's how it works. You fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz, and they'll create a customized meal plan. Ollie then will crunch the numbers and recommend the right recipes in daily portions for your pup. And so for any first-time listeners, Ollie will send out your pup's first box with 2 weeks' worth of meals and a guide of how to gradually switch them over to their new diet. Customize your plan. Ollie offers 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, a fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes. Now, I got to keep it real with you. I got a good boy at home. You guys seen him on the show. You've seen pictures of him. I'm going to show you him right now. It's my good boy, dude. Isn't he just such a cutie pie? Look at him. Look at him. Well, just straight up, he used to have some tummy issues. He used to have some problems, and, it'd wake me up. He'd have to go outside. I'll let you do the math for why. But ever since we've had him eating some Ollie, Maddie and I have noticed a massive difference in terms of his digestion. He's been happier. He's been healthier. He's been more energetic. And it's been so fun having Ollie be a part of my dog's life, because it's made his life so much better. And on top of that, I will say this. All of his friends at the dog park are a little jealous that he's getting Ollie, and they are not. So if you want your pup to live a longer and healthier life, head over to Ollie.com. Tell them all about your pup and use code CHATSPORTS, and you'll get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. That's Head on over. It's OLLIE.com. It's Ollie.com, and use code CHATSPORTS. So Ollie.com, use code CHATSPORTS. You get 60% off your first box. They offer a clean bowl guarantee on their first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you can get your money back. Alrighty, so we just told you all about Ollie, and now I'm going to tell you all about Cooper. Because Cooper Kupp, it's actually an interesting report. Diana Rossini putting it out the other day that the Rams have actually been the team reaching out to a lot of different squads across the league about trading Cooper Kupp away. I mean, not very rarely, but for a player like Cooper Kupp, it's actually kind of shocking to see the Rams being like, hey, you got anybody interested? You want him? It's kind of weird if you ask me, to be totally honest. But, I mean, there is something very appealing here for the New Orleans Saints. And I will say this. It's this point right here. The Rams are willing to take on some of the 2024 salary. And they're only seeking a second-round pick. So, yes, a second-round – and I say only second-round pick. Second-round pick to me is still very quality and very high value. However, if you could tell me you could have Cooper Kupp or Isaiah Foskey, which one do you want? Honestly, which one are you taking? Because Isaiah Foskey was a second-round pick. Nothing against him. He's just been underwhelming. And nothing against anybody on the depth chart, but they haven't been all that good ever since the injuries have riddled this team. So Chris Olave, Bub Means, Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson, those are the starting guys. But behind Mason Tipton and Chris Olave and Wilson, you have Jermaine Jackson, Bub Means, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the most recent addition to the depth chart, to the group. So the question I should now ask is, do the Saints have a need? My answer is yes. The Saints have a massive need. I don't think when your two top options are rookies, I don't think it's necessarily the best idea. Now, Chris Olave, good news. He should be returning soon. He's getting through concussion protocol as we speak, and hopefully he can return very soon. The time of filming this video on Wednesday afternoon. He has not been cleared to play, but hopefully he can be cleared to play before this week's game against the Chargers. But Cooper Kupp is a good player, man. I mean, historic 2021 year. 2022 had a good season. 2023 had a good season. 2024, only 2 games played due to injury. And now, there is a weird narrative around Cooper Kupp after his record-breaking season where he went crazy, won the Triple Crown and all that kind of stuff. And then he gets hurt, and he starts getting injury-prone, and he's expensive. And, Michael Thomas kind of sounds similar to his situation, right? And everyone kind of hated on Michael Thomas. That's neither here nor there. Not here to get into that. I'm here to talk about Cooper Kupp. Let's talk about pros and cons, though, because we have to. I think he could be an interesting player to bring in. You would have to give up some future assets, which I'm not necessarily jazzed about. But again, second-round pick for Cooper Kupp, or take another gamble, and who knows? Past year's second-round pick, Kool-Aid McKinstry, for the record, I love that selection. I think he's been good so far. I think he can continue to develop and become a great player. But I'm also kind of in the camp of, shoot, man. Cooper Kupp's not bad. He adds depth. He adds quality depth and veteran depth, which is something that this team is lacking in terms of the wide receiver group. Now, he is also a really quality player. There's no question about it. We went through the numbers. You can go anytime after this video, watch some highlights from him. He's a good player, and he's a veteran, but he's expensive. And before proration, Kupp's contract it's a little expensive. Now, worth noting, this is before proration, so this isn't exactly what the New Orleans Saints would have to pay right now. I believe the number is a little bit closer to $9 million this season. Point being, they still would owe a lot of money over the next couple of years. Only $5 million guaranteed next year in 2025, so that is something that's appealing. But we also know that the New Orleans Saints are able to get creative with the cap space. But, just straight up, I just don't think he's worth it. I think it's too expensive. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze when it comes to Cooper Kupp, because I know I just spent a few minutes talking about all the goods, but when it comes to the New Orleans Saints specifically, all the things I just talked about can apply to any team. It can be applicable, and he can add value to any team. But for the New Orleans Saints specifically, it's one of those things where I'm kind of in the camp that he's a good player. It would be fun. We're also about $68 to $70 million over the cap next year. Do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to keep or do I want to embrace this reload, the soft reloads, if you will, the soft resets, all that kind of stuff? So I think it's a little too expensive. I think the draft capital, it's a lot. It's appealing because they're willing to eat some of the money. But again, it's just a little too expensive next year and all that stuff. So if they can figure it out financially, I'm all for this. But right now, it feels like I wish it could happen. So I'll ask you the question. It's a split conversation. I've took it to Twitter, and I was actually very shocked with how few people actually want a Cooper Kupp. Injuries throughout his career, yeah, I get that, all that stuff, but he's also really damn talented. Are you interested? Yes or no? Let me know what you think. This will be the pinned comment, so if we get YouTube ad break, scroll on down. Let me know your thoughts, and check out what other people are saying. Feel free to reply to them. Have a conversation. This channel is called Saints Now by Chat Sports. There's a reason it's Chat Sports. So we want to have a conversation, and we want to chat with you. So let's go to the defensive side of the football. Myles Garrett, this is a player who, goodness gracious, if somehow, some way, we could get him in a Saints uniform, we could get him in the black and gold, that would be absolutely electric, because he is damn good when it comes to being a pass rusher. And the New Orleans Saints have a damn problem when it comes to getting after the passer. He makes good money as a defensive end, but it's not all that scary. $25 million is a lot. The 5th best in the league. To be honest, I think you could argue he still should be making top 3 money, and he's only 28. That's my thing here, is if you trade for Myles Garrett, it's not a one and done with him. You can have him around for a few years, and dare I say, Myles Garrett hasn't really slowed down all that much. Now, it is going to be very difficult to move Myles Garrett out of Cleveland, because I think the Browns find Myles Garrett to be very, very valuable. I think that they view him as a cornerstone piece to their defense, a massive leader, and a massive contributor. Similar to how we all view Demario Davis or Alvin Kamara or Cam Jordan. I think that that's what they look or that's how they look at Myles Garrett, maybe even a little bit more so just because of how good he has been recently. And would they actually trade him, though? Like, why are we even talking about this? Well, Albert Breer had a pretty interesting write-up. I think it adds a lot of context, and maybe, just maybe, the Saints can make a trade. And Albert Breer might be onto something here. Speaking of trades, the Browns will get phone calls now based on their 1-6 record. And the fact that they just offloaded Cooper, I don't think that they'll move Myles Garrett. But some fishing has taken place. Anyone can make a call. I don't think Albert Breer is saying he doesn't think that Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah will be moved. That all being said, the Browns are kind of in a really, really shitty spot right now with the Deshaun Watson contract, the Deshaun Watson injury. So maybe, just maybe, they're just like, hey, all right, we are a team that knows how to tank. We're a team that knows how to reset. Let's just do it. We're dead. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they'll do it with Myles Garrett specifically. But, I mean, right now, the New Orleans Saints, it's bad. It's bad, guys. They're 26th in sack percentage. So Myles Garrett could be impactful there. The Saints in sacks per game, they're tied for 20th. They're only getting 2 sacks per game. That's not good either. The sacks right now, they have 15 total, which is 18th. It's tied for 18th in the league. That's not good either. So Myles Garrett could really make an impact here. And just for further information, let's look at who the sack leaders are in New Orleans. First things first, I want to say shout out Alontae Taylor. There is no reason why a cornerback should be number 2 in sack production for a football team. But here we are. With 3.5 sacks, this guy has been special. Brian Brzee, he has been the best defensive lineman this year, in my opinion. Carl Granderson, I'm going to be honest, it's a little underwhelming so far this year. I expected a little bit more. I definitely had higher expectations for Chase Young. But also I wanted to give some love to Willie Gay because shout out to him for getting 1 sack on the season. He's top 5. As bad as it sounds, I don't think the top 5 in a sack production for a defensive-minded head coach's football team should be 1.5 and 1 sacks. I think we should be doing a little bit better. That all being said, maybe that's why I make a call here. It's Myles Garrett this season. Remember, a few minutes ago, I told you, the New Orleans Saints, they were getting 15 sacks per game. They were averaging 15 sacks for the season, averaging 2.1 per game. Myles Garrett this season alone, 17 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Those 4 sacks would immediately be the best on the roster outside of Brian Brzee. And that's my point. I think you need to go do something to add to this pass rush. Myles Garrett could be a really good option, but it takes 2 to tango. So I'm not necessarily sure that the New Orleans Saints or that the Cleveland Browns will want to move on, but I can definitely tell you that the New Orleans Saints, at least if I was running them, should be interested. Now, what would you do if you are the GM? If you're at the NFL trade deadline, you have 2 phone calls. One of them is saying, trade us this player, or this one saying, I want you to trade for this player. Which phone are you picking up? The buyer phone or the seller phone? Let me know in the comment section. I can't wait to see what you have to say. And Who Dat Nation, y'all stay golden. We will see you next time.